All right, last of the first set of review questions. So this is practice question number 4. Says the following is the balance sheet for Raymond Bank, one of many commercial banks in a country. So you see all the balance sheet information. Typical T-chart here with assets on one side, liabilities on the other. Notice it says liabilities and equity. Equity doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. It's just, again, something that's thrown in to kind of trick you a little bit. Don't worry about that. The only thing we're worried about are those demand deposits that the bank is liable for. Okay. So it says to assume there's a 10% reserve requirement. So part A says to calculate the required reserves of Raymond Bank. Well, they have $20,000 in deposits. So $20,000 deposit, they got to keep 10% of that. Okay, so 10% of that, all right, $2,000. All right, so their required reserves are $2,000. Okay, so that's part A, $2,000. Now it says for part B, calculate the maximum amount of additional loans that Raymond Bank can make without selling any of its holdings in government securities. So if we go over on the asset side, all right, we can see that they have two types of loans, business loans and student loans. We're not really concerned about that. All right, those are loans that are out there. They're not going to call those in. They don't want to sell any of their government securities. So how is it that they could actually increase lending? Well, think about it. $2,000 is what they're required to keep on reserve, but look, they're actually keeping $5,000. All right, they have excess reserves of $3,000. Okay, so the answer for part B is $3,000. They could actually do $3,000 worth of additional loans because they're keeping that little bit of excess reserves. All right, so for part B, it's $3,000. All right, now for part C, it says assume that Raymond Bank and other banks now lend out all their excess reserves. Calculate the maximum possible change in the following. So for the first part, demand deposits throughout the banking system. So we have to look at what could Raymond Bank potentially create. So we need to know what? The money multiplier. 1 divided by the reserve requirement. In this case, 1 divided by 10% gives us a money multiplier of 10. So we take that money multiplier of 10, we multiply it by that $3,000 that Raymond Bank could lend out. All right, and we have $30,000 as our answer, okay, for part 1. There's $30,000 in additional deposits that could be created by Raymond Bank. Now, part 2 says total reserves throughout the banking system. Those total reserves don't change. Okay, total reserves remain the same in this particular situation. Okay, so total reserves don't change throughout the banking system. All right, and the last part, part D, says to suppose the country's central bank purchases $1,000 of Raymond Bank's holdings of government securities as part of its open market operations. Do Raymond Bank's required reserves initially, that's the key, initially, right away, do they increase, decrease, or remain the same as a result of the central bank's purchase? And then explain. They are going to remain the same, all right, because these securities are on the asset side, all right? And so if the government comes in and purchases $1,000 worth of bonds, all right, from Raymond Bank, it's coming out of the asset side. So initially, nothing is changing. Nothing is changing. There's no change in deposits here, right? Money hasn't been added to the demand deposit side. You don't have new deposits from consumers or anything else like that. All you have initially is the government purchasing $1,000 in securities from the asset side of the balance sheet. All right, that wraps up the first 4 questions. I'm going to put some more questions on after spring break. I'm going to upload these to Google Classroom right now, so take a look when you guys get a chance. Okay, thanks.